Ever wondered why medieval kings were such weird eaters? Get ready for a wild ride through history's craziest dinner parties. From live birds jumping out of pies to chefs losing their heads over burnt toast, medieval dining was pure chaos. Here's something wild. Medieval kings often wouldn't touch their food until midnight. Why? Their doctors actually told them to. These medieval physicians had this crazy idea that digestion worked better when the body was completely at rest. They thought eating during the day when you're moving around would mess up your stomach. The kings would literally sit there, hungry, watching their food get cold, because their doctors convinced them that midnight feasts would help them live longer. And get this, the later you ate, the fancier and more important you were considered. Talk about weird flex. Some kings would even brag about eating later than other kings. It's like a really strange game of chicken, but with actual chicken getting cold on the table. Being a royal food taster was basically signing up for the world's deadliest job interview. These brave, or maybe just desperate folks had to taste everything the king ate about 15 minutes before it reached the royal mouth. But here's the crazy part. Even with food tasters, kings still got poisoned. Sneaky assassins figured out that some poisons took hours to kick in, way after the food taster had given the all clear. Other times the poison was hidden in the napkins, wine cups, or even under the king's fingernails. Some clever poisoners would build up small doses in the food taster's system over weeks, so they'd survive while the king got the full blast in one meal. Talk about a job with terrible benefits. Your best day at work was just not dying. Here's a mind-bender. Medieval folks drank more alcohol than water, but not because they were party animals. They were just trying to stay alive. The water back then was basically a swimming pool for bacteria. Rivers doubled as sewers, and wells were often contaminated with some seriously nasty stuff. But beer and wine, the fermentation process killed off those dangerous microbes. The monks figured this out pretty quick. They'd brew beer in massive quantities, calling it liquid bread. Even kids drank it. Though don't worry, it was way weaker than today's stuff, usually around 1% alcohol. Kings took it to another level, importing exotic wines to show off their wealth. They'd mix their wine with spices and honey, creating this fancy drink called hippocras, medieval Europe's version of a luxury cocktail. You might think kings only ate at those massive feasts, but they got hungry between meals just like us. Their version of fast food would make modern food trucks look boring. Kings had these special quick service areas called subtleties, where chefs kept pre-made snacks ready 24/7. Want a quick bite? How about a glazed peacock that's been pre-roasted and covered in gold leaf, or maybe some candied rose petals? The really impatient kings had something called Munchies bread. Basically, medieval hot pockets stuffed with spiced meat. They'd grab these fancy snacks while walking between meetings, dropping crumbs all over those expensive carpets. The messier the king ate, the more powerful they seemed, because who's going to tell the king to use a napkin? Let me tell you about the ultimate medieval flex, serving peacocks at your feast. But we're not talking about just one peacock. In 1413, King Henry IV went totally overboard by serving 100 roasted peacocks at a single feast. These weren't just any old birds. The chefs would carefully remove all the feathers, cook the bird, then stick those gorgeous feathers back on so it looked alive. They'd even add burning camphor in the beak to make it breathe fire. The weird part. Peacock meat tastes terrible. It's tough and gamey. But nobody cared about the taste. It was all about showing off. The more ridiculous and expensive your food display, the cooler you were. Some kings would even have their peacocks carry little flags with their family crest, because apparently, a regular roasted peacock just wasn't extra enough. Being a royal chef was like walking a tightrope made of fire. One wrong move, and you're toast. Take the infamous case of King Henry VIII's cook, who learned this the hard way. After serving slightly undercooked meat, he didn't just get fired, he got boiled alive. Yikes. Most royal chefs lived in constant fear of messing up. They'd triple-check every dish, knowing a single burnt pastry could cost them their head. Some clever chefs started keeping emergency dishes hidden away, ready to swap in if something went wrong. But the real pros? They learned to blame the food tasters when things went south. "Oh, the soup's too salty. Must have been perfect when the taster approved it." Smart move, medieval chef. Smart move. Ready for the spiciest drama in history? In medieval Europe, pepper wasn't just that stuff you shake on your food. It was literally worth its weight in gold. Kings would wage entire wars over a few sacks of peppercorns. Venice got crazy rich by controlling the spice trade, and other kingdoms were super jealous. You could pay your rent in peppercorns, and some kings even demanded defeated enemies pay them in cinnamon. Imagine getting mugged, but instead of taking your wallet, they're after your spice rack. That's medieval Europe for you. The spice trade was so valuable that Portugal and Venice nearly went to war over a shipment of nutmeg. And when explorers finally found new spice routes, it completely changed the world. All because medieval kings couldn't get enough of that spicy kick in their food. Medieval kings loved a good dinner prank, and their favorite was the live bird pie. Yep, exactly what it sounds like. They'd bake this massive pie crust and stuff it full of live birds. The moment someone cut into it, whoosh, dozens of birds would explode out, causing total chaos in the dining hall. But birds were just the beginning. Some kings hid jesters in giant cakes who'd jump out and start roasting the guests, pun intended. Others served what looked like normal meat pies, but inside, rabbits wearing tiny crowns, fish dressed as knights, and even pies that played music when you cut them. These weren't just pranks. They were million-dollar production numbers designed to show off how rich and creative the king could be. Think your friends' Instagram food pics are extra? Medieval kings took showing off at dinner to a whole new level. They'd cover everything in edible gold, not just a little sprinkle. We're talking entire roasted pigs wrapped in gold leaf. Chefs built towering food sculptures called subtleties that could reach the ceiling. Imagine a castle made entirely of marzipan, complete with sugar glass windows and working drawbridges. One French king had his chefs create a life-sized edible garden with trees made from roasted peacocks and flowers crafted from sugar. The really wild part: most of these masterpieces never got eaten. They'd sit there for hours while everyone admired how much money the king had literally thrown on the table. Let's talk about medieval hangover cures that would make modern health inspectors faint. When kings woke up after a midnight feast feeling rough, their doctors had some wild ideas. The go-to remedy: a mixture of raw eel juice and crushed pearls. Because nothing says "I'm rich" like drinking liquefied jewelry. Some kings swore by powdered unicorn horn, actually narwhal tusk, mixed with gold dust. Others tried the hair of the dog approach with spiced wine for breakfast. The really desperate ones would wear special healing necklaces made from dried herbs and precious stones. My favorite cure: drinking water that a hot iron sword had been dunked in. They thought the iron's strength would pass into their bodies. Spoiler alert, none of these worked. Thanks for joining me on this wild journey through medieval dining. If you enjoyed these crazy royal food stories, smash that like button and subscribe for more historical shenanigans. Share with a friend who needs to appreciate their normal dinner time.